Hello everyone, welcome back to the Nut House. So Thanksgiving is just a few weeks away and I'm going to go ahead and share my menu that we're having. We don't have a lot of people for Thanksgiving, so it's going to be pretty simple, the same things I usually make. This week though, we're doing desserts. We've already did the sweet potato pie and now we're going to do the pecan pie. I'm going to start by making my pie crust. Now, if you are pie challenged like I was as far as making the crust, you can go ahead and buy the crust or try this recipe because it is the best. So we're going to start by 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder and then a 1/2 cup of butter and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt because I'm using salted butter. Now I have a whole tutorial on how to do this pie crust. Lard and butter, you can use coconut oil, whatever. That video is also on my channel and you're welcome to look at it and see how easy it is. But we're just going to get this butter grated and get this pie crust in the refrigerator so it can get cold because it's easier to roll when it's cold. So pumpkin pies I know are very popular in the northern states, but here in the South there's always something to do with a sweet potato and we always have pecan pie. Do y'all have pecan pie if you live in the north? I don't know if y'all, I'm sure you do, but is it like a staple for Thanksgiving up there? Here my mom always made pecan pies or she would buy the Mrs. Edwards pecan pie, which I really love, and this recipe is better than that. It is really good. Now I have a recipe that also doesn't use corn syrup and I can make a video on how to do that if you want me to. Just let me know in the comments down below. But this is Old Faithful here. This is the one that I can whip together quickly, put it in the freezer, give as gifts, even sell them for some extra income. I mean, this is the recipe that I really love. So with this pie crust, I'm going to go ahead and start adding my whole milk in. And when you use the butter recipe, it takes a little bit more milk, but you're just going to keep adding the milk until you can form that dough. So I'm blessed to be able to have pecans from my mom and dad's yard. I have several of these bags that I keep in the freezer, vacuum sealed, so that they last for a really, really long time. So nuts are notorious for going rancid if you leave them out. So you definitely want to just keep your nuts in the freezer. I keep my walnuts in the freezer, pecans, anything that I'm going to use, not right away. Like I wouldn't put peanuts in there, but the pecans I always keep in there. Like I said, I have several bags of these. And the thing with pecans from the yard is, I don't know if you have to do this with the ones from the store, because I've really never purchased them, you know, from the store. But you want to look at every single nut. Now, this is the most time-consuming process for me. You want to make sure that there's no shells that are attached. And then in the center, like I'm showing you there, there's this tiny brown piece. I don't know what you call it, but it is bitter. So you want to make sure that you remove that. And the easiest way is just to break the pecan in half and it'll fall out. Now, I'm being super careful here because the last time I made anything with pecans, one fell in the floor and my dog ate it, and it really messed him up. We had to go to the emergency. We had to call the emergency vet and see what to do. So if you have animals, just be careful with the pecans, just in case they are, you know, allergic like he was. So now we're going to get the filling started, and we're going to start by using 1 stick of butter, and we're going to put that over a like medium heat, not too high, because you do not want the sugar and the butter mixture to come to a rapid boil and turn into hard candy. So we just want to melt this till the sugar is completely melted. So I'm going to add 1 cup of sugar to this and 1 cup of light corn syrup. We're going to get that on the heat. Keep stirring it. I'm not going to leave it. And when it's completely melted, we'll take it off the heat and let it cool slightly. Well, actually cool a lot, because the last thing you want is scrambled eggs in your pecan pie filling. Y'all, I'm such a messy cook. I have got butter coming out of the pot and sugar on the stove. It's going to be a mess, but that's me. I am super messy when I cook. So we're going to start beating eggs. So we have 4 eggs. We're going to beat that up. And like I said, you can temper the eggs, which I'll show you how to do. But the very best thing to do is wait until that mixture is cool, so you don't end up with scrambled eggs in your pecan pie, because that would be gross. So now let's roll out the pie dough. The pie dough that I showed you makes 2 pies. I used one for the sweet potato, and now I'm going to use one for the pecan pie. Now, when you're rolling out dough, make sure that you use plenty of flour on the surface that you're rolling, because it will stick and then it'll break apart, and then you'll have to mess with it a lot, which leads to a tough dough, not a flaky, light dough. So we want to just keep the dough moving. We don't want to keep it in one spot. So we will roll from the center out, turn it, flip it over a couple times. If I see anything start to stick even slightly, I'll add more flour. Because remember, I only used 1.5 cups of flour. So I have a little bit of room to add more to the dough so that it won't stick. So I'm just going to keep rolling until I get it to about the size I need it for my pie dish. And like I said, you should be able to move the dough, and if you don't, you need to add more flour. So just keep rolling until we have it the right size. Now we're going to get the dough into our pan, and the pecan pie, the pie crust is unbaked. So if I were going to make like a chocolate pie, then I would need to blind bake it, and maybe I'll do a recipe on a chocolate pie and show you how I do that as well. It's also very delicious. I mean, what pie isn't delicious? Anyway, so I'm going to cut off the extra and just piece it together, any spots that I need to. This is a very rustic pie, and people will be able to tell that you homemade your pie, which I think is a great thing. We're going to go ahead and fold the crust under all the way around, and then we will crimp it. Of course, you can use a fork, you can use your hands like I do. There's so many different ways that you can crimp your pie dough. I just do it the same way every time, but feel free to experiment. I've seen people do it with spoons and make pretty designs, or even if you're fancy, you could cut out, fall leaves and put it on the side. But we're just doing a plain crimp today. Now I've added a little bit of vanilla to the filling, and we're going to go ahead and chop up our pecans. Now you can leave them whole if you prefer whole pecans in your pecan pie, but I prefer them cut, chopped up. So you can use a food processor to do this. I'm sure there's plenty of little gadgets, but those tend to cut them up too much for me, almost into crumbly, almost into like pecan butter. So I like to chop them by hand because I have more control over the size. So like I said before, I'm going to take my time and cut these up so that they don't fall and my little CJ get one and hurt his belly. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut these up and put them over here while I wait for my filling to really cool down. Now pecans are really expensive in the store. I looked them up and I was shocked. But check around if you live in the South, especially where people have pecan trees. A lot of times you can find better deals from them than you can in the store, and they haven't been sprayed with any chemicals or whatever. I don't know if they spray them or not. I know my parents do not spray any of it. So check around and see if you can find some local, because those would be a better quality and also a better price, I'm pretty sure, than if you were to buy them in the store. But if you can't find anyone, of course, this only takes about a cup and a quarter of nuts, so it's not like it's using a whole bunch. Also, you could try this recipe with a different nut, like a walnut, because walnuts are cheaper. I haven't tried that yet because I really like the classic pecan pie, and like I said before, my parents have trees, so it's, they're free, so you can't beat free. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and temper our eggs. Now, to temper the eggs, you add a little bit of the hot mixture into the eggs just to bring the eggs up to temperature, and you'll do that slowly. Now, if I were not making a video today, then I would definitely let this completely cool and then add the eggs, but I didn't feel like I had the time to waste on waiting for it to cool, so I went ahead and tempered it. Now, if things go south and you didn't temper them well enough and you have some scrambled eggs in your filling, then take a small sieve or strainer and go ahead and strain that filling, and it'll get all of it out and you won't waste all of it. That's what I would do if I had that situation, because I don't like to waste money, and so I would just go ahead and run that through a strainer and use it the same way as I'm doing here. So now everything is ready, and this is the really simple part. Now, I always put my pies on a baking sheet, because if it spills over, then I have even more mess to clean than I normally do. So I'm just going to pour the filling into the pie crust and then sprinkle the pecans on top. Now, I like to bake this in a 325 degree oven for around 55 minutes. You'll notice that right now it's really liquidy, but when it's done, it might still jiggle, but it will not be liquidy. It will be set. And I'll show you here. See how jiggly it is? When it's done, it will set up and be beautiful and delicious. So here's a picture of it out of the oven. It is so flaky and delicious. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you try it, let me know how it turns out. Thank you for watching.